You tell yourself it's desire, but look closer. What are you actually hunting for in the dark? You chase the sensation, only to feel more distant from yourself than ever before.
Because the hunger was never for the body. It was for the wound that lives in your soul.
They don't talk about it, but you feel it late at night when no one's watching. When the world goes quiet and something inside you does not. Your phone is in your hand, your mind is restless, your body's alive, but your soul feels missing. So you chase something, you scroll, you click, you fantasize, not because you are bad, not even because you are lustful, but because you are empty. You tell yourself it's normal, just biology, just stress, just a release. But deep down, you know better. Because even while you are chasing it, you are not really there. Your body moves, but your heart's somewhere else. And when it's over, the silence comes back. The ache returns. And the guilt. It does not come from morality. It comes from meaninglessness. You have felt this before, not just after, but during. Even when it's intense, wild, thrilling, you feel distant from yourself. You tell yourself it's about pleasure. But what if it's not? What if it's never been about the body? What if it's about the wound? The one you never got to speak, the one no one ever saw, the one that did not bleed but hollowed you out quietly. Carl Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." What if lust is not about desire, but about escape? Escape from boredom, from loneliness, from shame, from the unbearable silence of your unmet self. You don't just want her, you want to be held, you want to be known, you want to be seen without having to perform. But instead, you chase pixels, bodies, moments, a fleeting surge of aliveness that dies as fast as it came. And what's left? The same void, the same ache, the same unanswered questions. You are not chasing her, you are chasing the part of you she reminds you of. Because the real craving is not for touch, it's for truth. It's not about lust, it's about loss. The loss of connection to your body, to your purpose, to your soul. And here's the most brutal truth of all. Lust is not the enemy, it's the symptom. It's your soul trying to get your attention in the only language it knows. And if you're honest, really honest, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This video is not about shaming you, it's about revealing what Carl Jung believed was the real meaning behind your desire. Not sin, not weakness, but soul hunger.
You have been told it's natural, that it's just part of being human, that lust is desire and desire is life. But what if that's not true? What if what you are feeling is not lust at all? What if it's hunger? Not the kind that comes from the body, but the kind that comes from the soul. The kind that aches beneath your chest when the world gets quiet. The kind that no screen, no fantasy, no climax can ever satisfy. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Lust is rarely about sex. It's about escape. It's about the unbearable emptiness that creeps in when you are no longer distracted. It's about numbing the ache of disconnection, not just from others, but from yourself. Every time you reach for another hit, another body, another high, you are not reaching for pleasure, you are reaching for proof. Proof that you're still wanted, still alive, still capable of feeling something. But what if the reason you crave that rush is because you have been running on empty for years? There's a wound inside you. Maybe you can't name it. Maybe you pretend it's not there. But it shows up anyway. in your restlessness, in your endless scrolling, in the fantasies that never satisfy, in the quiet moments that feel like suffocation. There was once a boy, quiet, curious, gentle in ways the world didn't know how to hold. He wanted simple things, to be heard, to be held, to be loved without having to earn it. But love in his world came with conditions. Smile more, don't cry, be strong, be useful, make them proud. And so he became what they needed and forgot who he was. Not out of rebellion, but out of survival. Because when your softness is punished, you learn to harden. When your emotions are dismissed, you learn to hide. And when your worth depends on performance, you learn to perform. He grew into a man, all confident, sharp, desired, but inside he was still that little boy staring out the window, wondering why love always felt like a reward instead of a right. This is what psychologists call an insecure attachment style. And when a boy grows up unseen, he becomes a man addicted to being desired.
Because desire feels like visibility, like proof that he exists, that someone finally notices. But it never lasts. Because desire without intimacy is a flicker, not a fire. And so the chase begins again and again and again. A loop of longing, climax, collapse. Not because he's insatiable, but because he's still waiting for someone to look past his body and say, "I see you. I see the boy beneath the armor." But most don't. They fall in love with the mask, not the man. And over time he forgets there was ever anyone beneath it. He becomes the role. The seducer, the strong one, the emotionally unavailable one. Not because he wants to be, but because vulnerability was never safe. There's a moment that happens to every man like this. He's lying next to someone. She's beautiful. She's kind. She's everything he thought he wanted. And yet, he feels nothing. No depth, no connection. Just the echo of an old ache he still doesn't have a name for. Because in that moment, he realizes something devastating. He's not with her. He's with the fantasy. He's not present. He's performing. And performance, no matter how passionate, can never replace presence. That's the wound. Not that he craves too much, but that he was never taught how to sit with what he craves, how to feel without fleeing, how to receive without proving. You think it's her eyes, her voice, her softness. You think that's what you're drawn to. But the truth, it's not her. It never was. It's you, the part of you she reminds you of, the part you forgot, the part you buried to survive. Carl Jung called it the Anima, the inner feminine that lives in every man. Not feminine as in gender, but in essence, tenderness, emotion, intuition, surrender, the ability to feel deeply without shame. When a man represses these traits, when the world teaches him to disconnect from his emotional body to value strength over softness, he loses contact with this inner feminine. But it does not disappear. It goes unconscious, and from that shadowed place, it begins to project. So when you meet her, the one who moves like music, who speaks with softness, who radiates warmth and feeling, your soul wakes up. Not because she is your other half, but because she mirrors a part of you you forgot was even yours. You don't crave her, you crave the reunion with yourself.
And when you don't understand this, you start chasing her, possessing her, obsessing over her. Not because you love her, but because you think she has something you have lost. Because the more disconnected you are from your own soul, the more pressure you put on hers. You want her to carry the weight of your unmet needs, your suppressed emotions, your forgotten beauty. But she was not designed for that. No one is. And so the relationship begins to break. Not because there's something wrong with her, but because you are not really with her. You are with your projection. Jung warned of this. The moment she reveals herself as human, with flaws, boundaries, and limits, he feels betrayed. But the betrayal is not hers, it's his own soul reminding him, this is not your path to wholeness, this is your invitation to turn inward. Because the truth is, the more you chase her, the more you abandon yourself. So ask yourself, what part of you is she awakening? Is it your softness, your sensitivity, your longing to be touched emotionally, not just physically? If you're starting to understand this connection, write, I am seeing the projection in the comments below. This is the beginning of the work. Breaking this cycle requires deep inner work. This is the alchemy that turns the lead of your pain into gold. Step 1. Face the void. When the craving arises, do not act, do not scroll. Sit with the uncomfortable feeling of emptiness for just 2 minutes. Let it be there. This is the beginning of building tolerance for your own inner state. Step 2. Integrate the shadow. Acknowledge the needy, obsessive, unseen child within you. Instead of shaming it, speak to it. Say, I see you. I know you're hurting. I am not going to abandon you this time. This is the core of shadow work. Step 3. Reclaim the anima. Stop looking for creativity, softness, and intuition in others. Cultivate it in yourself. Take up a creative hobby. Practice journaling your feelings. Listen to your gut instincts. You are taking the gold back from the mirror. Step 4. Somatic reconnection. Reconnect with your body, not as a tool for performance, but as a home. Practice breathing exercises, go for a walk, and feel your feet on the ground. This pulls you out of the fantasy in your head and into the reality of the present moment. This is the deep work we do at Think Abyss. It is not easy, but it is the path to freedom and true self-improvement. What is one quality you saw in that person that you are now ready to claim for yourself? Declare it in the comments. Write, I am reclaiming my kindness, or your creativity, or your passion.
When you do this work, something miraculous happens. The frantic hunger of lust begins to transform into the calm, confident fire of true desire. You no longer need to consume to feel alive because you are already whole. Desire becomes something you share from a place of fullness, not something you use to fill a void. You can now engage with others not as a collection of projections, but as real, flawed, beautiful human beings. You stop needing to be seen because you have finally learned to see yourself. The wound that was not your fault becomes the healing that is your responsibility and ultimately your greatest strength. The person you cannot have did not break your heart. They broke open the cage around it. If this video resonated with you, subscribe to Think Abyss for more deep dives into the psychology that liberates us. Share this with someone who needs help with emotional healing or letting go. And if you are ready to honor the gift of this painful awakening, make a final declaration in the comments. Write, "I am coming home to myself," because the journey is no longer chasing shadows. It's about arriving at yourself. But now that you have decided to turn inward, we must go one level deeper. We have spoken of the Anima as a mirror to your potential, but like all great archetypal forces, she has two faces. To understand the intensity of your craving and your fear, you must understand both her light and her dark. First, the Anima as the divine guide. When a man begins the work of integrating these repressed parts of his soul, his capacity for feeling, his intuition, his creativity, the Anima ceases to be a frantic projection onto others. She becomes an inner guide. She is the source of his gut feelings, his moral compass. She is what connects him to the meaning of his own life, what allows him to create art, to love deeply, and to see the world not just as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be experienced. This integrated Anima is the source of his wisdom. She is what makes a man whole. This is the goal of the entire journey.
But what happens when the Anima remains unconscious? Then we meet her other face, the devouring witch, the siren. When a man refuses to engage with his own inner world, the Anima's energy becomes toxic. Internally, it manifests as moodiness, sentimentality, poisonous jealousy, and passive-aggressive irritability. He becomes a slave to his own unpredictable feelings because he has no conscious relationship with them. But it's how this projects externally that is truly dangerous. The man with an unintegrated Anima will constantly find himself drawn to women who seem to embody this chaos. He will be drawn to manipulative partners, to femme fatales, to women who create drama and drain his life force. And he will blame them. He will say she is the toxic one. She is the siren luring him to his doom. But Jung would say he is simply meeting his own unlived, destructive inner feminine in the flesh. She is a mirror of the chaos he refuses to confront within himself. This is why the initial projection can feel both sacred and terrifying. You are seeing the divine guide, but you are also sensing the presence of the devouring witch. The intensity is the signal that both your greatest potential and your greatest danger have been activated at once. So what comes after the healing, after the shadow work, after reclaiming the projection? What is the ultimate goal of this entire journey? It is what the alchemists and Jung himself referred to as the Coniunctio, or the sacred marriage. This is the inner union of the conscious self, your ego, your logic, your identity with the integrated soul image, the Anima. It is the fusion of your inner masculine and feminine principles into a state of dynamic wholeness. This is the end of the compulsive search for your other half, because you have finally become whole within. This does not mean desire disappears. It means it is transformed. Compulsive, empty lust becomes conscious, connected eros. The desperate need for a partner becomes a conscious choice for a relationship. You stop looking for someone to save you from your emptiness because you are no longer empty. You are full of your own being. And this inner sacred marriage radically changes your external life. A man who has integrated his Anima is no longer magnetically drawn to chaotic projections. He is drawn to wholeness in others. He can finally meet a woman not as a fantasy, not as a savior, and not as a threat, but as another whole, sovereign individual. This is the foundation for a truly mature, transformative relationship.
The person you cannot have did not break your heart. They broke open the cage around it. They were the catalyst for this entire alchemical process. They gave you the greatest gift possible. They showed you a glimpse of your own magnificent soul in all its light and all its darkness. Now it is time to become that person fully and completely, whether they are there to witness it or not. If this journey into the depths resonated with you, subscribe to Think Abyss. We don't offer easy answers, we offer the tools for deep transformation. Share this with someone who needs to understand their own heart. And if you are ready to complete this work and honor the gift of this painful awakening, make a final declaration in the comments. Write, "I am my own destination," because the journey is no longer about chasing a reflection in a mirror. It's about arriving at yourself.